Fascinating day of Test cricket on day one of this third Test at Trent between England and India. 307 runs, 6 wickets. India batting an entire day in this series. We hadn't seen that until yesterday. We were hoping for our Ashwin and Rishabh Pant to ready to start things off on day 2, but unfortunately the weather in Nottingham has almost given us inevitably a delay, so we don't know how much longer. There is a steady drizzle from what we hear. We will get you the very latest from the ground itself, but it gives us enough time to reflect on day 1, talk about selections, take your questions, and at some point, of course, the clouds will clear, so we'll talk about how perhaps this little drizzle will impact the game. This is ESPN Cricket for Matchday. I am Ronak Kapoor, still with the bright company of Akash Chopra and Stephen Harmison, who joins us from our London studios. And we will also go to Melinda Farrell, who's outside Nottingham, trying to bask herself in some cover under an umbrella. In fact, let me go to Mel first, even before Akash and Stephen Harmison, because we need to know, Mel, how bad is it actually? Has the rain steadied? Has it been a drizzle since the morning? What can you tell us?
Yeah, there has been a steady drizzle this morning. It's actually just brightening up a little bit now. I think it's improving somewhat, and I think it's meant to get a little bit better in the next hour or so as well. So we might not get much of a delay. It'll just be whether or not it hangs around and we have one of those frustrating days where it just interferes intermittently with play. But at the moment, I reckon we might just be a delay by maybe half an hour or so. They have been out there, the covers have been on, but the umpires have been out there having a little bit of an inspection. So fingers crossed, it won't be too bad.
Okay, that's optimistic, and like you said, it is brightening up. So just confirming that the players did not take the field at all, not even for training. Sometimes you do have the drizzle and the covers on, but the players tend to still take the field, which gives you an indication it may not be so bad. Have we seen any of that, or has everyone just stayed under the covers and we're only putting you in the hard line of duty?
I haven't seen that this morning. Interestingly enough, though, the India team did go out and have a net session at the end of play last night.
Wow,
quite a few of them were out there getting some extra batting in. So that was quite interesting. They kept us waiting for the press conference for nearly an hour while Sanjay Bangar and some others were out there in the middle. So obviously planning on being out there for quite some time, hopefully for India today.
Very well, Melinda Farrell. I will not ask you to stay in that hard line of duty any longer unless it brightens up and you can give us some good news before the start of play. But many thanks to Melinda Farrell. We'll get back to her if we do find better news coming through from Trent. Now let's go to Akash Chopra, Steve Harmison. That's interesting that Mel points out the Indian team criticised for their lack of preparation on overseas tours and whatnot. After a good day out, job wasn't done.
See, at some stage, obviously, you need to turn it around. They may not have said it in as many words in the press conferences that, we were slightly ill-prepared. Maybe a couple of matches would have helped. Maybe, in hindsight, a 5 days break after the first or the last ODI and the test match, maybe we shouldn't have taken. Maybe the test specialists should have been brought to England a lot earlier than when they were actually on the 26th, if I remember correctly. Only a week to go for the first test match. But now they're obviously spending the hard yards. The general consensus is that the longer you stay in a country, the longer you get familiarized with the conditions, the better you become over a period of time. So they have understood that, and therefore, even after having a good batting day, a rarity on this tour thus far, they've spent more time in the nets, getting used to the conditions, and perhaps getting some just hitting the ball and getting the feel.
Maybe we can take some credit for it, giving them this much flack for not preparing. 5 days off before the first test. Finally, they listened to us. Steve Harmison's listening patiently to us as well. Morning, Stephen. It's not great weather in Nottingham, but after 2 months of your country giving us big sunshine and whatnot, you've saved all the rain for this wonderful test series. You still think, though, it shouldn't be one of those that gives us too much loss in cricket, and even otherwise, we still seem to have enough pace in these games to get a result.
Yeah, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. Yeah, it's one of them ones where I think the rain will hang around for a little bit. The forecast is for it to brighten up around about noon, 12 o'clock, so shouldn't lose that much time. But like you said, test matches, there's an argument now about test matches going down to 4 days. I don't believe that's right. The way the game's played, they're playing 4-day cricket anywhere. Talk about preparation, you know, the longer you're in the country, the easier it is. Yeah, the argument around the world at this moment in time is why is it the home team so dominant? The home team's so dominant because the away team doesn't want to get there too early enough to do the hard yards to prepare, and I can understand that a little bit coming to England because you don't play great cricket when you come. You know, preparation for the overseas teams, there'll be maybe Nottingham, into Leicester, play Derby, play Kent, play these places where they just play second team cricketers against your big superstars, and that you're arguably better off having nets than playing against second team, second rate cricketers from smaller counties who aren't really going to give you great preparation other than standing in the field, standing in a cold field for 90 overs.
Right, we've got some. I think we've got some good news coming up from Trent Bridge. So let's go back to Melinda Farrell. Mel, what have you got for us?
No umbrella.
Look at this! I've dropped the umbrella. So it has been brightening up. Inside the ground, the covers are coming off right now, and they're predicting an 11:15 p.m. start. So just the 15 minutes lost. So we should hopefully be able to then get pretty much a full day in, which is really good news. So especially for India, I think too, having got themselves in probably their best position that they've been in really in the series batting wise. I think they'd like to be able to get out there and try and put a very, very good first innings score on.
Now that's good news you've given me, Mel. Now I don't want you to stay any longer because then the weather will change again and then we'll have to again see you in an umbrella. But yes, thank you very much for those updates. So we know just 15 minutes is what we now play to start at 15 minutes past 11 local time. So just that much of a delay. So we still have enough to talk about. Look ahead. I put out a tweet asking for questions from you guys for both Steve Amerson and Akash Chopra, and obviously the one that's come in is how will this little drizzle or steady drizzle impact the pitch and conditions? Steve Amerson, would you like to take that? This little drizzle, can we see a role reversal from Lords where England might have the worst of the batting conditions? Any impact at all that this drizzle could have?
Yeah, the drizzle will have, I would imagine, will have a big impact because the clouds will still hang around. Whether the wind is up, I thought it was quite windy yesterday morning, and when it was windy yesterday morning, that's when it didn't swing as much. It more off the sea more than anything else. So if the wind gets up, it might blow the clouds through. The sunshine might come through, sort of towards lunch and then after lunch. And as we've seen yesterday, that lunch and tea period was the best time to bat. So fingers crossed from an England point of view that comes to fruition. But that first hour and a half this morning, that could be some dicey conditions for the batsmen, which England will be hoping to knock India over within the sort of first 50 runs, and then England's openers have to go out and face probably the best the best Indian bowler that's been on show this summer in Mohammad Shami, and I think he will enjoy bowling at Trent Bridge. One, he'll swing it. Two, it's a low, slowish pitch, so he's the way his trajectory and the bounce, he could be the danger man in that up until lunch. So from an Indian point of view,
I don't know the science behind it, but you said if this pitch was a little faster, it would have been great fun. Could this pitch quicken up with any water, with any moisture?
I don't think so. I think the talk is from the ground is that it's only going to get slower and lower, and then it possibly could break up and become uneven. So that's probably the end of day 3, early day or into day 4, and even test matches don't go into day 5. But if we ever get to day 5, then that would be the case. But I don't see it quickening up too much, even if it's bright sunshine. And I think the cracks might open. It might get drier, but if it does at Trent Bridge, it tends to go lower rather than bounce that a little bit higher.
Very well. Now that means, Akash, that the difference between India coming out and getting skittled out in 20-30 runs, or the tail putting up a fight and taking it to 360, 370, maybe 400 could be massive.
See, 400 is a bonus. If you can get to that figure, that'll put India in the ascendancy. I think India will be in the driver's seat then. 350 is what I'm actually realistically looking at. Both Pant and Ravichandran Ashwin. Then Shami may just want to throw his bat around and it may just come off as well. So 350, 360 is something that India won't really mind too much. But you also know if you have won the toss, you have bowled first and allowed the opposition to score 350 plus. Your thought process while putting the opposition in after winning the toss is to bat once, bat big and bat the opposition out of the game, which basically means that now England will have to score 450 because the news coming from the ground, what Stephen has also mentioned, if the pitch is going to become slightly uneven, it's going to turn a little bit, Ravichandran with Ashwin will come to his own and therefore batting won't be easy. So first innings, that's what England will be focusing on, and India definitely will feel that for once they are in a position to actually control things.
And we were having a chat. Sometimes it's never a bad thing to bat first in a test match.
It's never a bad thing to bat first in a test match. 9 out of 10 times you want to bat first, unless it's a complete green top and it's laden with a lot of moisture. Perhaps that was the case in at Lord's. But even then, if you apply yourself a little more, there is a chance that you will still be relevant and you will stay alive in the game, because batting last is not something that you look forward to do in a test match.
Well, did yesterday have any sort of impact to just stabilize this otherwise unsettled Indian batting lineup? I'm delighted on a day when they did bat the entire day through. They send the batting coach to the press conference, because sometimes that happens only when the batting's not done well. So Sanjay Bangar spoke to the media at the end of the day, as did Chris Brooks. Have a look.
Yeah, it's a combination of both. The certain adjustments were also made by some of the batsmen. They were playing a lot later. A lot of the batsmen used some short square of the wicket to good effect. And overall, I think the discipline was far better. The kind of start that Shikhar and Rahul gave us, I think that was crucial, because in the first innings, in the first test, we also got a similar start. And that is something that we look for from the opening batsman, because we all know that with the Duke ball, first 10 or 15 overs can be crucial, and most teams, if they bat to 30 to 35 overs really well and show discipline, I think they can cash on later on.
I mean, these guys they're world-class players. I know they're in different conditions. You try and adapt to whatever conditions you're in, but I think with the ball moving around, even the ball moving around today, I thought that they left the ball a little bit better potentially. Made us go to them a little bit more. Naturally, Indian players are good off their legs and good off their stumps most of the time. I felt that they probably left the ball a little bit better than they have done. And as I said, I think it did a little bit less throughout middle period, and they capitalised on that, and that's what you have to do when the ball's doing a little bit less. That's when you can start to score more runs.
The point Chris Brooks makes, just amplified with the numbers that we've got, they've left alone more than they have in the first two tests, and the defence also a little more solid. There were wickets that fell, there were catches that went to the slips, there were nicks, but Chris Brooks makes the point that they made England's bowlers go at them a little more and therefore capitalise. Now, Stephen, if you just put Brooks' words into perspective, I've seen a little reaction where there's a part of the England supporting group or media saying that they felt England bowled poorly or not as well as they should have, in spite of the pitch not helping as much. Would you go with that, or would you say it was just a mix of India batting particularly well and the ball not doing much, like Chris Brooks said in that second session?
No, I thought I didn't think England bowled badly. No, I didn't. There was times where they maybe lost their discipline a little bit, but I didn't think for 1 minute they bowled badly. If you go the way they bowled in the first two Test matches, they bowled horrendously because they skittled India out in the conditions they're in. This is a proper Test match cricket. The one thing I'd say, myself and Ashik talked about at the start of yesterday, was India had to find a way to get over that new ball and get England into that middle session without too much damage. Now, we found in England so far, you've had wickets going clusters. I said that yesterday. There was 3 wickets in a short period of time between 60 and 80 runs, and there was 3 wickets late last night. You've got to earn the right, and I thought India earned the right yesterday to be in a position to get the runs they got, which was Shikhar Dhawan went in at the top with Rahul, who left the ball very, very well. They got themselves in a position to set a platform where the ball's not moving as much for when Rahane and Kohli came in. That middle period when it wasn't doing as much, England then maybe lost the discipline a little bit, So going from leaving the ball as a batsman to then getting the bowler to come to you, which is, like Chris Woakes says, then he goes from fifth stump, fourth stump, onto sort of thinking, right, I'm going to bowl that $1 million ball, which is try to take it away from off stump. And we've seen, if it doesn't swing, the Indians love that. Straight down the ground or through mid-wicket, extra cover, it's a big area for good, top-quality batsmen. And I think that's what happened yesterday. England just went to the Indian batsmen out of maybe lack of patience and lack of discipline a little bit. And the Indian batsmen, because they had a good platform, punished them. And that's good Test cricket. It's what you want from your Test players. We asked them, we asked the Indian batsmen yesterday to earn the right to make a score in an innings. And I thought India did that perfectly yesterday. And I don't think England bowled too badly at all.
Shame that they couldn't leave the ball any better in the first test, especially, or the first two tests. Great opportunity gone.
I personally feel it was a combination of both.
Right.
When England were bowling in the first session yesterday, I thought they were slightly on the shorter side. They were also slightly on the wider side. They did not make the batsman play that often. Especially for someone like Shikhar Dhawan, I remember Stokes coming in and bowling at least 3 long hops, and that's.
I mean, that's the thing. We've seen them be relentless.
Correct. So that relentlessness was not to be seen for an extended period of time. We did see Chris Woakes bowling an exceptional spell, but we also saw some freebies coming India's way. But it is also maybe a result of a batsman being there for a little while longer. So it all added up to India's decent show, and we have come to a stage where a 16-run opening stand looks like India has done exceptionally well with the openers, considering how things have been thus far. I was slightly disappointed with Cheteshwar Pujara because he's another guy who's done well in the past, but not so much in overseas conditions. So his job, his place is always under the scanner. Happy for Rahane, happy for Murli.
And to think of how it played in the second session. Pujara getting out last ball, morning session.
Exactly.
And just been kicking himself.
He will be, of course, because that was an impulsive shot, a rush of blood kind of a situation that seldom happens with someone of his temperament. But it did happen, and it's happened, of course, a few times more than he would have liked. Was dropped in the first test match. So it's not really auguring well for Cheteshwar Pujara. That's something that the team management will have to sort out quickly, because you don't want to lose a player like him in test match cricket, and that's happening way too often. Him getting dropped from the playing 11 in my book is unacceptable, but he's making it very difficult for the team to pick him always.
There's actually a question bang on point on that, and I'll take some of those questions regarding team management and who's to blame with these choppings and changes. And there's also some sympathy that the players aren't scoring enough runs, so why blame the team management? So we'll come to all that. We'll also discuss the start of the play, because we know it's 15 minutes delayed. So stay with us. We'll be back in a minute on ESPN Cricket Info Matchday.
Catch the best of the England-India series on ESPN Cricket Info. Match highlights, clips and the best moments. Download the app now for a better experience.
Good to still have you on ESPN Cricket Info Matchday. Just a reminder, 11:15 local time is when play is expected to start, so just a 15-minute delay. So tune in, adjusting your clocks accordingly wherever you'll be watching or following the coverage from live ball by ball updates, of course, on ESPNcricinfo.com. Gives us some time to take some of your questions though, and the point Akash raised just before we went to break about Cheteshwar Pujara not helping his own cause, giving away the odd opportunities. Couple of questions on that. Naveen Surana on Twitter asks if why are all the fingers being pointed at Kohli and the team management? If Pujara and the likes aren't scoring runs, then how can you blame them? And then you've also got one from Kapil which says, is axing for no reason dented confidence for Pujara and Rahane? So,
you know, once again, there are two sides to any story that comes out. Virat Kohli also failed about 10 times in that test series in 2014. But Mahendra Singh Dhoni, the captain, the team management thought that Virat Kohli is a special player. You need to stand by him when he's going through a horrid patch. They did not drop him. They carried a guy with completely loss of form, but they stood by him at that point in time. Is that happening with everyone else in the team right now? Is something that that doesn't really come across that nicely. We have seen the vice captain getting dropped. We've also seen Cheteshwar Pujara getting dropped for the first test match when he actually scored a 50 at Joburg, the last overseas test match that India played on a pitch that was almost unplayable. He scored a 50. In fact, till the start of this game, there were only two 50s, 50 plus runs scored by Indian batsmen besides Kohli in the last 6-7 test matches outside India. Pujara being one of them. He got dropped. Confidence definitely gets dented. We actually put out a graphic yesterday how many openers have been tried. No opening combination has been given more than 4 innings to open together, and that's going back to Sri Lanka, India's tour to Sri Lanka. So India's tour to Sri Lanka where Abhinav Mukund was there. In Sri Lanka's tour to India where Dhawan, Vijay and Rahul were playing the game of musical chairs. And the same has continued with one innings given to Parthiv Patel in Joburg in the last test match. So the question that the team management needs to ask and somebody needs to answer is that what comes first? Stability or success? What leads to what? In my opinion, stability will eventually lead to success because if success is leading to stability, then I think you're just putting the cart in front of the horse and not behind him.
Okay, well, food for thought, and I'm sure it's not the end of that discussion because this team management tends to give us plenty to talk about when it comes to selection and player management. Now, part of the discussion with regard to selection inevitably falls to Hardik Pandya and the role that the team sees for him. So let's spend some time into that with both Akash and Steve, because we've now seen Hardik Pandya, 5 innings in this series. He played all of the South Africa series too. So he seems like someone, contrary to how the Indian team management is treating the rest, that they will invest in Hardik Pandya. It would have just been a different feeling if India would have come in 5 down with both Hardik and Pant, and possibly could have had a different dynamic to the start of play today.
To this conversation.
Yes, to this conversation too. But the fact that again he could not survive at that point, it wasn't necessarily the most challenging period of play that we've seen. But are you finding the line falling short now for Hardik Pandya soon?
He's the only player who's not been dropped since his test match debut. He was unavailable for the Sri Lanka tour to India. Besides that, he's played every single test match, and that can only be said about him and Ridhiman Saha, besides Virat Kohli himself, ever since Virat Kohli has taken over captaincy in test match cricket. So it is quite apparent that a lot of faith is invested in him, and you can understand why. Because finding a seam bowling all-rounder is something, it's an eternal search for Team India. It was Stuart Binney when India toured England last time around. It's Hardik Pandya now. And But the question, the million-dollar question that needs to be asked is that, yes, you're searching for an answer, but is he the answer? And is the answer ready? He may be an answer in the future, but is he ready right now? Because who is an all-rounder? An all-rounder is someone who can actually get into the playing 11 on one discipline itself. Either it could be a batting or his bowling. If he's a good enough batsman, can he bat in the top 6? If he's a good enough bowler, can he be a third seamer? If he's your 4th seamer and a number 7 batsman, then
you're
not really answering that question, and therefore the question has been raised time and again.
Very well. Steve, the last time India were here in England in 2014, you could argue that the bowling wasn't oozing the same confidence as it is now. Now after South Africa, you've got Bumrah, there's no Bhuvaneshwar of course, but Shami is bowling better than he has. Umesh Yadav's not a bad backup seamer. There's more confidence about this bowling lineup, and therefore again the questions around the all-rounder's place have been raised. Michael Holding says he may be something in future, but right now he's not doing enough for you. So how do you treat such a rare commodity like Akash has said? We don't find them too often in Indian cricket. Do you keep persisting with him in the hope that he'll come good, or have these innings given you enough evidence that for now India would be better suited to play either a proper batsman or a proper bowler?
I like Hardik Pandya. I think the kid can play, and I think he's got a bright future. Like everybody's saying, I don't think anybody's disputing that he's got a bright future. I think you stick with him. I honestly think you have to stick with him. He's batting at number 6, sort of stroke 7 in this series. It's not his fault that 1 to 5 aren't scoring runs, other than Kohli. Now that puts a lot more pressure on Hardik going in when the ball's doing a bit. The team's low in confidence. You're not trying to protect the guy, but you're trying to use him as his usability to an absolute maximum, which is when you've got a good start. 300, 350 for 4, for 5. He goes in and he's got freedom and he goes. He seems to be a free spirit. See him in IPL, and his bowling is probably at this moment in time a 4th seamer. But when you're playing in England, you play 3 seamers anywhere. When the challenge he's got is to become the 3rd seamer when you're going to play 2 spinners, and that's where he's got to up his game to make sure he does that. You know, there's only one way he's going to get the experience of doing that, and that's by playing Test cricket. I don't believe he's going to get better by playing first-class cricket. He's going to get better by playing Test cricket and being in the environment, playing against the better players. That will inspire him and push him on to be, you know, a better player. At this moment in time, India's top 6 aren't scoring enough runs to maybe protect the free spirit that Hardik Pandya is. From a bowling point of view, he hasn't really needed to bowl that much on this trip because the seamers have bowled quite well. You know, you talk about Bhuvaneshwar Kumar's a massive miss. He's a huge miss, and it's great to get Bumrah back for the 3rd Test match. The argument is, do you play the other all round and you play Jadeja instead of when you play 2 spinners?
Yes.
Because we go
to Lords, exactly, Stephen. That's the point, right? If India read the conditions wrong and played 2 spinners, then Hardik has got to step up to do the 3rd seamer's job. And he's not quite good enough. That's the argument made against him. Do you sympathise or do you understand that?
Yeah, but then you can turn around. Yeah, but you can turn around and say, well, he's not going to bowl as much. If you're playing 2 spinners, in a Test match, the bulk of the overs are going to be bowled in the latter part of the Test match by the 2 spinners. You know, you bank on winning the toss, you bank on getting big runs. You're always looking for the perfect thing. So your 2 seamers will bowl. He fiddles 7, 8 overs in, you know, up until sort of, you know, that middle period of about 40 overs point of view. Then your spinners come into the game and predominantly bowl for the rest of that day with one of your mainline seamers, and then you go into the second innings. And if you go into the second innings, you're only looking for your. If you play 2 spinners, you're telling yourself it's going to turn. That 3rd seamer's only going to bowl 15, 20 overs in a Test match because you've got 2 big frontline seamers who can bowl with a new ball. Second new ball if it has to be, but the spin bowling department is going to do the bulk of the work, especially with somebody like Ravi Ashwin, who likes to bowl with a more of a newer ball. So you've got potential to try and blood a very, very good, a good up-and-coming prospect, which you think, you know what, he could, like what Virat Kohli was, MS Dhoni did to Virat Kohli in 2014, give this kid a chance, give him a run of games, and he will come good for us. If you don't think he's going to come good for you, then you leave him out and you get the next cab in.
Okay, fine. Final verdict on this? You'd give him a few more games?
You know, it's not always about justice, it's also about balance. If your batting is not firing, it's misfiring, as it has been except this innings. I'd rather go with another batsman, because why are you carrying a specialist batsman if you can't play him?
Okay, well, if Rishabh Pant steps up to it, maybe that could add another dimension to this argument. But thank you, Akash Chopra. Thank you, Stephen Armisen. We've set things up quite nicely. We know that this is a good time for India to get a few runs. Looking at conditions, we'll be back for the lunchtime show. So do join us then on ESPN Cricket Info Matchday.